was the polar opposite of Notre Dame's loss last week at Louisville, where the Irish created 5 turnovers this week instead, including 3 interceptions by Caleb Williams. Jadarian Price returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Xavier Watts scored defensively as the defensive hero, and the Irish hammered the arch-rival Trojans 48-20 in South Bend.
Well, just a complete reversal of fortune here, and it was the kind of response that you hope for. You don't necessarily, obviously, we didn't anticipate that kind of performance, but great credit to Marcus Freeman. Amazing credit for Al Golden, what they did defensively. Five turnovers to 3 interceptions. I mentioned it on overtime. Going into the game, Caleb Williams had thrown 666 college passes and been intercepted 6 times. 18 passes into this game. He had 3 more interceptions. Just an incredible job by Notre Dame's defensive front. Linebackers staying in their lanes. Quality tackling by and large overall. Just a tremendous performance by Al Golden's defense.
And JB was 3 interceptions in the first half that set the tone. Then it was a sack fest and pressures in the second half all over Caleb Williams for the last 2 quarters.
You know, you talk about it being a reversal of fortune, and frankly, Notre Dame made its fortune tonight. Yep. Notre Dame made its fortune tonight by getting back to what it does best. It was very aggressive, but also disciplined with Al Golden and Marcus Freeman running that defense. Notre Dame played to its strengths. They took USC's strengths away from the Trojans for the most part. And again, Notre Dame made big plays when it had to make big plays. I do want to point out the worst loss of Lincoln Riley's head coaching career. I believe Douglas Farmer also noting that. I think the worst before this was maybe a 17-point loss to Utah. But I bring that up because I was told this week that Notre Dame dove deeply into Utah film study and what the Utes did twice last year to beat USC, but particularly they physically beat and battered USC in the Pac-12 championship. Tonight, Notre Dame beat and battered USC.
Yeah, and I thought underrated key to the game, Notre Dame did not have a great offensive performance today, but they were playing from a lead most of the time. As you mentioned on our Irish Illustrated Overtime podcast, there was a lot of complimentary football because when you have short fields, it's okay to let Audric Estime finish off those drives. If it was last week, he would not have finished off those drives. Notre Dame's offensive line got the push it needed to allow them to have an offense that could compete with USC, even if the defense wasn't absolutely lights out as they were.
Notre Dame only had 251 yards total offense. They only had 13 first downs. They were 3 of 10 on third down. You know, their yardage was a little bit lower, largely because they had a short field to work with, and when they did, they took advantage of that, so that was good. But Jared Parker is still trying to find his way through things with the Notre Dame offense, and it's a struggle. I don't think that we talked about on overtime, Notre Dame had a double-digit lead for 34 minutes, so you're going to approach it a little bit differently, but you've got to find a little bit more consistency in the play calling. You have the second down runs that get dumped, and so now you're in 3rd and 6. They're struggling on 3rd down. They're struggling on 3rd down because they're struggling on 1st and 2nd down. We've talked about that in the past. So Jared Parker's still trying to find his way. Good for Marty Biaggi, the 99-yard kickoff return for Jadarian Price, and just the overall return game, which has struggled. I think he needed a game like that. Jadarian Price needed a 99-yard run to feel a bigger part of this because he hasn't been getting touches at the running back position.
And I think I didn't really consider this until Sam Hartman brought it up in the post-game press conference. Chris Tyree needed a bounce-back moment as well. He had a potential touchdown last week that he didn't catch. This is a 46-yard touchdown catch and run by Tyree. It's not that Notre Dame's lead was in jeopardy at that point, but you started to feel a little bit more comfortable that a wide receiver made a play, and that was a big play by Tyree to seize momentum there midway through the 3rd quarter.
And again, flashing that speed that we talked about, he ran away from the USC defender to get into the corner of the end zone, and really, I think, put everything that Notre Dame needed right there on the field, on the scoreboard, and send a message that they weren't going to be anti-fragile, or that they weren't going to be fragile. They were going to be anti-fragile, in the words of Marcus Freeman, as we heard post-game. I thought that was critical. And yes, this offense has got to continue to grow, but when you force 5 turnovers and you're 5 for 5 in the red zone, it's a little easier to teach, and it's a little easier to nitpick after a win.
A lot of defensive heroes. We mentioned Xavier Watts first, but we have to do it again because, as I said earlier, he might be the National Defensive Player of the Week. A couple of interceptions, a fumble recovery touchdown, a fumble force, 6 tackles, a couple of them were stuffs all over the field. He wasn't alone, though. They had somebody at every level of the defense. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Riley Mills played well up front. J.D. Bertrand was outstanding in the middle. Yeah. and, of course, Xavier Watts on the back end.
Well, Watts makes an interception early, but right after that, I remember turning to you and saying, man, Watts is all over the place. He was making plays right from the very beginning. They need that kind of play from the safety position. They haven't gotten those kind of big plays from back there. And then, I know we were talking about Benjamin Morrison having a tough day. He's going against a really, really good wide receiver.
He got
core.
a pick, too, for his tough day.
He got a pick, and they're going to make plays against you, too. But Brendan Rice, 2 catches, 18 yards. He had the short touchdown pass. The longest pass play of the day was 21 yards to Lake McCree, their tight end. USC has had so many big plays. They have 3 receivers with 70-yard receptions on the year. The longest one today was by a tight end that's rarely used, and he caught it for 21 yards.
Only 4 total explosives for USC the entire game. 5 when you had Zachariah Branch's 60-yard punt return touchdown did set up a 60-yard punt return. Did set up a touchdown. Notre Dame, of course, offset that with Jadarian Price. When you play that type of defense against USC, but Tim Priester, you pointed out 4.1 yards per play, 4.2 yards per play.
Yeah, not per rush, per snap of the football.
And no explosives. That's about as good as it gets versus USC and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to what Notre Dame did at all 3 levels, but particularly the discipline and the aggression that Notre Dame played with up front. It created pressure on Caleb Williams off the edges. It collapsed the pocket a number of times. We saw Caleb Williams look more disoriented, I thought, in the pocket tonight than maybe any other game. And I know we've all spent some extra time watching USC this season because of this game coming up or because they were in a showcase game against Colorado or something like that. And I thought that this was the most discombobulated I've seen Caleb Williams look. I mean, he did not have answers tonight.
Right.
He did not have exit routes. I mean, every now and then, he would pop out of there, but if you think about last year's game where they had no chance, and we knew that Notre Dame they were going to adjust their approach. They learned that against in preparation for Brennan Armstrong. Again, we mentioned these names, and we know that Caleb Williams is on a different level, but total preparation. L. Golden, absolutely tremendous tonight.
Notre Dame ends its 8-week stretch at 6-2, heading to the bye week. What a difference a week makes. The feeling that the Irish program, fan base, players, coaches will have going into this break, polar opposite of what you could have had last week and what could have gone wrong today. For John Brice of FootballScoop.com, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, this has been Tim O'Malley and Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis.